Alright, we are live on YouTube, starting us up on Rumble. Good afternoon! Welcome to I'm Okay, You're Okay. Actually,
Yes.
aren't we supposed to be in different seats?
Not different seats, but different intros.
Okay, sorry.
Anyway, it's okay. Like the man said, it's I'm okay, you're okay. And it's June 1st, and it's Sunday. And we bring this to you the first Sunday of every month. So here we are.
Excluding last month, though, but
Well,
it was...
1 for 2, not bad.
Yeah.
This is going to be 2 out of 3. Our percentages are going way up.
Yes, that is true.
So all is good.
Yes.
Anyways, the premise of the show here is we may or may not have different opinions. Doesn't matter. We're still okay.
Yeah.
I can adamantly disagree with him,
Which he does, quite often.
more than likely not.
Yeah.
But it's all fine. We want you to be the same thing, and we want the entire world get rid of all this hate towards other opinions. It's all okay.
Or anything that's different, we don't focus on what's different. We focus on what we can agree with, not what we disagree with.
Yeah, well, we don't really care, and the bottom line is we just don't care. We'll try to talk the other person into it, or we'll both agree and move on our merry way.
Well, not really talking about...
We don't make it personal, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, first thing off we're going to talk about a little bit is good old
80-year cycle?
no.
Hemp Prohibition?
Hemp Prohibition. Yay or nay? Of course, it's still legal across the country with as far as federal laws go. Many states have made it legal, but the feds don't seem to be enforcing it. So where are we at in this whole thing? Give me some thoughts.
Okay, so rather than looking things up, and really for the most part, because if we display actual evidence that goes against the narratives, we might have to suffer repercussions. So we're just talking purely on speculation. We're not saying anything is fact. I need to disclaim that because for some reason every YouTuber needs to be a professional lawyer nowadays just to survive. There is a whole thing about what I know about marijuana illegality, or cannabis prohibition, or hemp illegalization, because it is right now marijuana itself, cannabis is classified as a Schedule I narcotic,
Right, federally,
and everything. And for whatever reason, the federal government has more power than the states, but that's a whole conversation in and of itself.
Well, just to interrupt you, I'd also like to bring in the topic of what about hemp?
Yeah.
That has no mind-altering value whatsoever,
The reason
but it's
why-
still in that category, is it not?
Well, because it is a cousin. Like, hemp is to cannabis as a Chihuahua is to Saint Bernard. They're both dogs, but they're nowhere near the same species.
So
it's a cousin.
Is hemp illegal also in this country? Federally?
I believe so. Once again, I'm going to stay on purely speculation. I don't want to...
Both of us are. We're just getting opinions
Yes.
and ideas.
Now, I fully support, people in the comment section to share their findings. So that's just the community expressing their beliefs and all that stuff, or whatever they find as actual evidence. But I believe hemp is illegal federally.
Probably. I have no idea to tell you.
You know what? Screw it. Is hemp illegal in the U.S.?
You may not distinguish between
Hemp
the
in the
two.
United States. Hemp is a legal crop in the U.S. It was legal in the 18th and 19th centuries, and production was effectively banned in the mid-20th century. Okay.
So it is illegal or legal? I didn't quite get what you said. Did you say
Yeah, well, it was legal, and then it became illegal. The 2018 Farm Bill directed USDA to establish a national regulatory framework for hemp production in the U.S.
So it's legal.
So it's regulated, though.
Okay.
Yeah. It changed the federal policy regarding hemp, including the removal of hemp from the Controlled Substances Act and the consideration of hemp as an agricultural product. The bill legalized hemp under certain restrictions and defined hemp as a plant species cannabis sativa L. So sativa, huh? With a delta 9, tetrahydrocannabiol, or THC, concentration of not more than 0.3% on a dry weight basis. So hemp has THC and such in it? I thought it was just...
I thought it was absent of that. I don't know.
Maybe not fully, because it is a cousin. You know, it might have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You know, I mean, because like people don't know this. I don't know which one fed into the other, but Brussels sprouts and broccoli are the same plant.
Really?
Yes. Like I don't, as I said, I don't know which one became the other, but one is a product of the other. Because if you look at broccoli, it's like little tiny bulbs everywhere.
Yeah.
Make those bigger, you got Brussels sprouts. And they grow on a stalk too, like a long broccoli.
Well, could be one been artificially made from the other?
Well, yeah, cross pollination and genetic modifying, through that. I mean, if you look at old pictures of, and these are like paintings, not like what we believe things to be. Like these are actual evidence, like 14th century paintings.
Right.
Of actually,
we're getting off topic.
Well, hold on a second. 14th old painting of a watermelon. Images. I just want to show you. So, see here we have an old painting of a watermelon.
Yeah.
Trying to find here this one here. Look at how the rind goes completely through to the core.
Wow. Yeah.
Now that's a painting.
Yeah.
That's an old painting.
Yeah.
That's what watermelons used to look like versus now. And I completely lost why we're onto this painting here.
Well, we're talking about cross-pollination.
Oh, yeah.
And, they've obviously improved it.
Yeah. But, I mean, carrots used to be purple, the whole orange
and look what they do to chickens.
Oh, God.
They can hardly walk if they can.
Well, they're
so big-breasted.
Those are plants. I mean, those are animals, not plants.
It's still the same idea.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, so, broccoli and Brussels sprouts are more or less the same genome. And, I think it's kind of sort of the same thing, as hemp is to cannabis. Now, you were around during a lot of this, the whole war on drugs, brought to you by
back in the
Richard
60s,
Nixon and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The reason why marijuana, hemp and cannabis and all that stuff became federally illegal is the excuse they used was it's difficult for me to even talk about this, but it was very, very prejudiced, very racist. It was I don't even want to say what they said, but it was very not good against the black community and against the Hispanic community. And that's what they used because the culture was indeed different. There was definitely racism back in those times. So they used those and said what they said to encourage white people to support the prohibition of this because it would cause that or do this or whatever.
And then white kids in the 60s moved into the mainstream of cannabis. And cannabis. And that changed everything. I go back to the day where...
well, you were a hippie.
Before that, when I I think it was the first year, I don't know if it happened the second year, so freshman, I don't know about sophomore year, they were still showing us the movie Reefer Madness in school.
Yeah.
They laughed like crazy.
Yeah, no, they were...
So if everyone look up a stupid movie...
Yeah.
And it's short. It's actually a short. It is a movie, but... It's
a short movie.
Yeah. Anyways...
No, it's become a meme online. Reefer Madness, original trailer. Reefer Madness, 1936. Yeah, well, it's a movie. It's an hour and 8 minutes long here. I have yet to see, but it's from 1936. It shows here.
But they were still showing us that in 1960.
Yeah.
So that's just stupid.
Yeah.
But my point being, first off, is it a good thing that it should be legalized? Let's talk about states first. Because from one state to the other, I don't know if all 50 states make it legal. Probably not.
Well, I mean, getting a little bit off topic, whether there should be a convention of states and, the states need to...
Well, they're trying to do that, not necessarily for cannabis.
Well, not for cannabis, but
cannabis.
I mean,
Why do I always... Yeah.
Well, you're trying to say hemp and cannabis at the same time.
Yeah, there you go.
No, the federal government has just... It's... we are living the nightmare of our founding fathers, essentially. You know, like the states don't have the power that they used to, nor that they should have. But as I said, that's a whole different conversation. But that's why, despite many states like ours, out here in California, and I believe the majority, like I think it's like what 30 plus states, it's now legal to some degree, either medically or otherwise. So like it's over half. But like still the feds can come in and do whatever they want with whatever, doesn't matter how much or how little you have.
Right. Yeah, but the feds don't seem to be acting on that.
Well, because the general populace, like as I mentioned before, and as I'm alluding to, like with a search here while you were talking, like they utilized legitimate racism and prejudice and ignorant thinking to get it, on the illegal thing, and then they use other excuses down the line to keep it on there. Now, once again, this is my speculation and such, but from what I know, the reason why is it can and will put several multi-trillion-dollar industries like obsolete. And we all know about how corrupt world governments are. How lobbying is a thing, or whatever it is they do in whatever country that people live in, and all this stuff. More or less, the governments, despite being different, they're all the same. It's the few controlling the many, and like so.
Well,
in their best interest to keep the money going, like.
Yeah, well, they make,
an example is right here.
Money they tax this besides sales tax. And
is it true that 1 acre of hemp produces the same amount of oxygen as 25 acres of forest? Okay, well, this is talking about oxygen production, but like, here we go. Hemp versus wood, a rational approach. Like, there's hemp can be used in textiles, in fabrics, construction materials.
Okay.
Like various things. And I don't know the exact number, but it said something like 1 acre of hemp is the equivalent to like 10 acres of trees for whatever it is that you're going to do that trees can do, that hemp can do. But then also that acre, it consumes less and it's replenishable. It grows back. Trees don't grow back. You got to plant new. No, you got to plant new ones.
It's a long-term growth for a tree.
So, it's better in every way, but just because things have been established for so long, it's just not feasible to.
Well, I think, as far as cannabis that is legal in 39 states or whatever it is, it's very confusing when it's not legal for the feds. It should be one way or another. I have been told that today's cannabis is nowhere near what I know it as way back in the 60s. And you hear things about how harmful it is to people long term. Don't know if that's true or not. I wish some studies would come out from unbiased doctors that think it's a good thing, doctors that think I'd like to hear about it, see if it's any good, because I have no idea. But that's just my opinion. Maybe it shouldn't be legal. I don't know. Is it harmful? I don't know.
And speaking about bias,
but it shouldn't be both.
But speaking about biased and unbiased doctors, this topic of conversation, is such a hot button issue even to this day.
Sure.
Remember, I went to I was trying to find therapists.
Yes.
And I went into this one therapist, and they were just interviewing me and everything. And we were trying to figure out, if this is a good, therapist for me and all this stuff.
Good fit,
whatever. And we got into borderline an argument about cannabis legalization. And she was going on about how it's bad for you and how this, that, and the other. And I'm just like, okay, well, do you have any paperwork to back this up? Do you have any? She's like, oh no, my folder is at home, and that's when I just rolled my eye. Obviously, okay, now you're just bullshitting,
Well, she sure handled it wrong.
You want to have an opinion,
that's a no fit.
But I pulled out my phone, ready to look things up. It's like, hey, we'll look it up, and see what what the consensus is. I may be wrong, I may be right.
Yeah.
But you don't argue with a potential client. But that's how, hot button issue this is. Some people are so adamant,
And maybe it was a good thing that she did argue, because you know that you're not a good fit. She knows where you're at, and then you know where she's at. It ain't gonna work.
Well, she shouldn't be a therapist to begin with, if that's how she handles herself.
Maybe she did the exact right thing. Because stroke you along, if say you're there a month and then you finally get down to the nitty gritty and you don't connect, well, you just wasted a month. So I'm not necessarily saying she was wrong, but she didn't seem to go about it in the right way initially.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, because it's not telling me an actual number how many states has versus hasn't.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's just a bad situation when it's legal, it's not legal. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Okay, and because this, these poor legal. What are they called? Distribution centers or whatever they are?
Oh, well, they're officially called dispensaries.
Dispensaries,
but I prefer to call them grass stations, because that's a lot more relaxed.
I like that.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody does. It's like, why do you... Oh, I'm going to go to the dispensary. Oh, look at me, pish-posh with my fancy doctor word. Nah, bro, call it a grass station, man.
But
just
can you
relax.
imagine the people doing this legally through whatever state you're in, and they pay taxes, and the feds can come in at any time. They can't use the banks.
Yeah, they have to take everything by cash.
Yeah,
like
everything is cash, and that makes it extremely dangerous.
And see,
that is just bad.
A very common
make
argument
it or
is,
don't make it.
A very common argument for legalization is then you can tax it, and not that I support taxes, because I absolutely do not. But I mean, like, the states are already doing it. I'm pretty sure there's some Fed tax on it as well when I buy that from the grass station.
Oh no, there wouldn't.
Probably
be.
not then.
No,
okay.
Absolutely won't be. Not when it's illegal.
Well,
the feds aren't going to put a weed tax on an illegal substance. No.
I don't know, man.
Then they'd be in court in a heartbeat.
Well, I mean, they are addicted to OPM.
Well, that's for sure.
Other people's money, by the way.
Yeah.
OPM.
Yeah.
So,
anyways, my point is, I guess, good or bad, I don't know. I wish we had more studies, because it could be. I'm open to it. Or it could be a bunch of hooey, which I was adamant about way back in the day. But I've also been told it's different today than it is way back when. So unless you have anything else you want to add to it, it's bad that it's legal, not legal, wink, wink. That is a mess. Clean it up, governments.
Yeah. We have some comments here on YouTube. Talks to Masculinity says, "You guys are back." Yeah, no, like, this is our
I'm okay, you're okay.
Yeah, I'm okay, you're okay show. Like, you're probably know of it if you're around at the very beginning. It doesn't tell me a timestamp here, so I don't know when this comment was. But she's trying to sell you oxys, bro. So maybe it was he's saying the therapist I went to.
Oh.
Trying to sell me oxys. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Good luck.
Okay. That's always possible.
Yeah.
Make a little money on the side. Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Get out that prescription pad.
But yeah, no, getting back to the subject at hand, like,
Final thoughts, then we'll move on.
Well, to classify it as a Schedule 1 narcotic, that seems like a step in the wrong direction. That just kind of felt like, them just
That's
coming
always
up
seemed wrong. Yeah, but it's the gateway,
Yeah.
That was always the answer.
Well, I mean, like, I wish 72 was here, because he and I actually had this exact conversation last night, and he had a lot of insight into this, a lot of things to say, but he was going on about like how cannabis is not addictive, but it is a danger to somebody with an addictive personality.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of that going on in today's world, especially with how internet culture and all the stuff that's been going on for the past 15, 20 some odd years has been slowly regressing us as a species. We went from sending out, decent texts, when you sent text messages back in the day, you actually typed out every word there, and then we started abbreviating everything, then we started using emojis, and then you had social media come in, and then eventually Twitter came in, and then you just had like an X amount of character limit, like 32 characters or whatever, so we're just condensing, systematically our ability and way of communicating to just borderline grunts and growls like cavemen. You know, like just through technology, just to make things easier and more streamlined. You know, we're regressing, and now we've gotten back to worshiping cat pictures and writing on Facebook walls with pictures very reminiscent to ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. We've come full circle, folks. You know.
Well, we're neither one of us are really adamant on the whole thing. I think maybe more so than we brought it up in the show. I'm pretty in between. I don't really care one way or another, other than make it legal or make it illegal. Don't wishy-washy. I hate that.
Yeah.
That's the bad thing. Anyways, let's move on to another topic.
Yeah.
That is of great interest to me, and it's called the 80-year cycle, mostly in the Western Hemisphere. But what it is, it's been kind of documented. We go through phases, and we're just now coming out of the 80-year cycle of the most dangerous part of it. And what it is a lot of hate and a lot of, which you can see in our country. We're 50-50. Everybody hates everybody, and it's just a mess, and I hate that. But if you go back, let's see, it's 2025, so say 23, 24. Now we're into 25, we're going to be coming out. You go back 80 years, what do we have? A really bad one, World War II. You know, that was 80 years ago.
Yeah, ended 80 years ago.
Yeah. And you go back 80 years before that, you had the assassination of Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, Civil War.
And it was very similar to now as far as the hate in Congress and everything else going on. So I put some stock into this. I don't know if I believe it wholeheartedly, but I put a lot of stock in it. And boy, I'm hoping we come out of that. Now, is it a bunch of hooey, or is it actually real?
Now, I've been thinking about this for a very long time, because I've been sitting here thinking, okay, 80 years ago we had World War II. Before that, we had the Civil War.
Well, things do happen in between.
Well, yes. Yeah. Well, I'm just going by the generalization, 80-year cycle and all that stuff. And what we're going through today, and what we've been going through for the past couple of years and everything, has, I feel fairly certain to say, unprecedented in many regards, because it's not just that there are problems that we have faced before, but there are problems with other problems, because we've gone through plagues and pandemics and everything. We've gone through economic recessions. We've gone through geopolitical issues, socioeconomic problems, also, but it's all happening at once. It's just been everything's been screaming at me. So it's a whole worldwide issue. Everything's on fire. Okay, but it's okay. What's going on today is a world issue. Okay, World War II was definitely a world issue, but before that, as you asked, or is it a bunch of hooey? Am I right? Am I wrong? And all that stuff. We get to the Civil War. Well, that's more of a U.S. issue. However, as I said, I've been thinking about this for quite some time. It's not just that it was a U.S. issue, or a North American issue. It really was a world issue, because it changed the way war was done. When just like when 80 years before that, so we go from 1860 or something back down to 1770, 1780. What was there? Mm-hmm. The Revolution.
Yeah.
And that was a massive world event. Yeah. The assassination.
Yeah, the Revolution. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the. Yeah, what are you talking about? The assassination
of Abraham Lincoln.
You're talking about the Civil War.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
The Revolution. Okay, we go from today
to
World War II, Civil War. 80 years before that was a revolution.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, so, but that obviously was a massive world-changing event. Everything that happened from there, because if it wasn't for France, there wouldn't be a USA. If it wasn't for a USA, there wouldn't be a France as we know it.
No.
Because they got inspired to have their revolutions because of ours, and because they lost us, Britain still had to ship all their prisoners somewhere. Terra Australis, known today as Australia.
Yeah.
So there wouldn't be an Australia as we know it today. And what are the ripples of time and space, from all that? So that's a massive. But let's get back to the Civil War.
Okay.
So the Civil War, a lot of people just think, okay, you're right. 3 out of 4 of them, those are all massive world events.
Yeah.
But what's with the Civil War? Well, the Revolution ended line infantry fighting. Like, that was the end. With all of our guerrilla warfare tactics and all that stuff that we learned from the Native Americans.
Yeah.
But the Civil War brought about what made the First World War, the Great War, the war to end all wars, the most notorious thing: trench warfare and emplacements and digging in. That's if you look at the Civil War, it was really getting started with that type of warfare, of digging in, making embattlements, and putting in guns and trenches and defense and all that stuff. That's where it really started. And then, so that from, it bringing that in, that is a major world event, despite its being a civil war just in our little pocket of the planet.
Yeah.
So
World War One doesn't really fit into the 80-year scenario because it's too early, but it's really all one war, and it had to be, a really early prelude, if you want to look at it that way, and then eventually went into the hit hard in the World War II era of the cycle.
We'll see.
Now, if you compare everything we're talking about up to this current 80-year cycle, we've really skirted with practically nothing. We've got a war going over in Ukraine. We have 2 assassination attempts on a future president in 24. So things have happened.
Well, don't forget about the Palestine-Israel thing, that was going on.
Yeah. I mean, there's
China
war
and Taiwan.
Yeah, and
China and
actually
the Uyghurs.
The Middle East is, pretty big mess with
China and the Falun Gong.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of unrest, but nothing like World War II, 1 and 2, or Civil War, or going back. Yeah. But it's still there, and the biggest thing I can see is the attitude, just the hate we have amongst one another for different opinions.
Yeah.
What's wrong with us? I'll sit there and argue my point of view all day and every day, adamantly. When we're done, I'll go buy you a beer.
Yeah.
You can have whatever opinion you want.
And he's done that.
Yeah.
Like we've had, we've butted heads in certain topics I don't really want to bring up and everything, but like we adamantly disagree on certain things, but we're doing a show together.
Yeah.
And
that's the point of it. We're both okay.
We don't have to agree on everything. And it doesn't matter if somebody's right, if somebody's wrong. Maybe we're both right, maybe we're both wrong. At the end of the day, we're here, and we just got to coexist in one way or another. We're here. So figure it out. Look at what you have in common, and not fight about what makes you different.
That's why we're trying to pick different topics for the first Sunday of the month.
Yeah.
And hopefully we won't agree on all of them. We'll disagree.
Yeah.
But bring them up.
Well, if you want to say agree and disagree, okay. Well, then let's bring back up the previous topic, hemp legalization, marijuana, cannabis. Yeah. What do you say and why?
Well, I've already said it. Basically, don't have it both ways. Don't have it legal in your state where you can go to your.
But what would you say personally? Like not just how you want it handled. What do you believe? What do you say?
I say it should be legal. That's my bottom line. It should be legal. I hope I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know how harmful it is. I don't know what today's gas station and grass station is.
Yeah.
I don't know. But to me, it should be legal, restricted like alcohol is. I mean, for crying out loud, I know.
Cigarettes are restricted.
Cigarettes are
you have to be 18.
Deadly harmful for
yeah.
you, but they seem to be legal. So what's with this? It should be legal.
Yeah. So
you probably disagree, but
no. I 100% say it should be legal, because the best argument I can think of, because there's 1,001 ways I can back myself up and back myself up very well, but the best way I can explain it is, now I don't know exactly what country, but some country up in Northern Europe, like Norway, Netherlands, maybe those are the same country. I'm not sure. But somewhere up in there, like everybody knows about Amsterdam.
Yeah.
But I'm not talking about that. But where like I think that that drugs, not that drugs are legal, like because I think they are illegal, but the way they handle people who like are addicted, be them, addictive personalities, which would make them addicted to marijuana, or games like WoW, or anything like that, or people on actual hard drugs and everything. I don't want to start listing things off, but people who are in trouble, they actually give them help. Like they don't just like throw them into an asylum or whatever.
Yeah.
They don't throw them in jail. Like they basically put them on probation. I think is probably like the worst thing that happens to them. But like they go to rehab. They get the help they need, state sponsored, and they slowly get off of it, and then they can move on and live a better life and everything. Out here in most of
we don't have
the
programs.
world, we just lock them up with the murderers and the awful people,
we just don't have the programs.
and then we
to
wonder
help
why
people.
we have so many criminals. So.
Yeah, I would prefer, as far as quote hard drugs, whatever they are, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I would prefer less crime, and not necessarily legal, but less crime, and more emphasis on helps available to all, rich or poor or rich. It doesn't matter.
I can't think of a scientific reason why it would be illegal. Now, if you can think of a scientific reason why it's harmful, okay, but then going back, then we got to have a better a better rehabilitation.
Yes, that's
like
exactly right.
Not a punishment system, but the government helping the citizens get off of something potentially hazardous.
Now,
there's no reason it should be illegal.
The one thing I would say that I'd throw the book at somebody for, getting behind the wheel.
Yes.
And that goes for everything, alcohol, everything.
Well,
just don't be driving.
You realize who you're talking to. I'm the most anal retentive driver you'll ever see in the history of God, and you can take that to the bank.
Yeah.
So,
Anyways, anything else you have to add, or I think that covers what we were going to talk about.
more or less. I mean, there was something I wanted to mention during yesterday's news show. That mile-wide caldera volcano that they found somewhere out in the Pacific or something. And they're saying, because I've seen a couple videos about it since then, but it's predicted to go off over the next couple of months, and it's said to cause, I think it was 10,000 earthquakes within a 24-hour period. Now, it's not saying specifically only in California or Oregon or whatever, but wherever. It's somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. I don't know.
See,
it concerns me.
I find suspect with that as soon as they start saying it's due to go off in a couple months.
I mean, they're always pushing doom.
You can't. There's no way to know that. There's just.
Well, you can tell in the tone of my voice
a couple of years is a nanosecond to all that.
Yeah.
It moves so slow, and you can't just tell me in a couple of months. Oh my God.
Well, but I'm just thinking.
10 years from now is nothing time for that.
I'm just thinking back to the time where everybody was and I mean everybody, it was all over the internet. It was nuts. Everybody was always freaking out about Yellowstone.
Yeah.
And then later on, I was made privy to whatever you call it, the whole ball of magma underneath is disconnected from the mantle, so it's not being fed. So all of the energy that's expelling, from Old Faithful and the heaving and everything, it's not being fed and replenishing. It's dying.
Oh.
So it's not. Now, if it does somehow explode, which I can't conceive how something that's been slowly dying, it can have the energy to just suddenly pop, but it's not going to be a world-ending event like how everybody thinks. That's if it is disconnected. I've heard since then that it has not been. I don't know. I don't care, because at the end of the day, what am I going to do about it? Die.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life worrying about something I have no power over, so I'm going to chill.
Geological time is way different than human time.
Yeah.
No comparison at all.
Yeah, well.
Anyways, I think that's going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
And this is I'm Okay, You're Okay. We're a little bit scattered today.
Yeah.
But I think it was still fun.
It's a good show.
Yeah. So, July 1st, And we'll be going, hoorah, 4th of July coming.
July? No, it's June
Oh,
1st.
Well, in July. I shouldn't say July 1st because I don't know what the first Sunday will be. First Sunday in July.
When is the first Sunday in July? Oh, the 5th.
Ooh, the day
Wait, no,
after.
the 6th. The 6th.
The 6th, okay.
Yeah. Okay, well, the next day. All right, the 4th of July is on a Friday. That's cool.
Yeah, how
That's a
about that?
great time to have a 4th of July
Perfect.
barbecue. You know.
Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or Monday is all good.
Yeah. Or all of it. You just have a hoopla extravaganza.
Anyways, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
And
for all of
remember,
you,
I'm okay, you're okay.
yeah, for all of you, all of us.